After a little bit of a Omicron holiday layoff, we're back. True Hoops little Zoom from quarantine show. David Thorpe, how were your holidays?
Fine, yeah. So far, the virus hasn't come into my home yet, but it's only a matter of time. It seems inevitable, like Thanos for Avengers fans. It's inevitable. It's going to invade every family.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Luka, LeBron, the Warriors, Kevin Love, but let's just do a little COVID tour of what's happened since we were last year, which was the 20th. I think the day after our last show, before Christmas, Eric Feigelding, COVID expert, tweeted that the NBA has irresponsibly refused to do anything to further slow Omicron, all while NBA players stricken left and right. I love basketball, but I'd love people to stay alive and stay safe more. Around then, the CDC had advice for celebrating the holidays. Wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth to help protect yourself and others. Stay 6 feet apart from others who don't live with you. Avoid crowds and poorly ventilated indoor spaces. And then on Christmas Day, I don't know if this image happens to be from the Lakers game, but just a big bunch of people courtside, masks off, hugging each other. Then we also had a promo with like the Bing Bong guys and like 20 people maskless having dinner together. I'm not going to judge anybody's Christmas. We didn't wear masks at our house, but that's what the CDC said. Eric Spoelstra quoted the day after Christmas saying, "It's a crazy virus. It really is. It just brings out the worst in people." Baxter Holmes has been sharing numbers. He says about half the NBA has been out because of COVID one way or another. That's 250 out of about 500 players. I asked this morning which team has been most affected, and the responses included the Miami Heat right now, Orlando, which leads the league in minutes played by players on hardship contracts, the Celtics, because Jason Tatum's career has taken a turn since he got it. A convincing case for the Raptors. They were defending champs, and they moved to a bubble and played in a different country, had most of their roster test positive while in the playoff spot, and now are the only team playing without fans. Or the Nets are title favorites, but they're missing Kyrie Irving all season until Wednesday coming up, and plus a bunch of other players. Or the Hawks have had a head coach, a star, and for a while, the entire bench in COVID protocols. 11 of the NBA's 30 head coaches have been out because of COVID protocols. Hawks coach Nate McMillan says he would like the NBA to pause the season. And then they have increased testing since Christmas. They shortened quarantines for vaccinated COVID positive players to 6 days. Here's what I would note. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs, according to Sabrina Escobar writing in Barron's, has asked eligible employees to work from home until January 18th. Bank of America, Citigroup, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Capital One, Deutsche Bank, Wells Fargo, many others have also like delayed their reopening. Just leaving a little bit, like the NBA is not taking questions, no press conferences, they're not putting their experts out there to explain this. It seems to me like they're not slowing the spread of the virus for sure. Half the league and protocols is not the system working. And maybe they're just betting on this being the milder version of it and everyone's going to be okay. Is that what we're doing now, David? Is that your take?
I mean, I don't know how you can begin to understand their thought process. If you remember, it was a month ago when I suggested let's take a timeout. Yeah, maybe not a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, because I do think this is going to burn through the country fast, and then we'll be in a much better place. The reality is, 98% of the league, I believe, is the number we heard, is vaccinated. There's a great chance that all 98% of them will be just fine if they get this cold. But the other 2% or some of their family members, it could be devastating. And we don't really know for sure what the long-term effects can be even. So to me, the word I keep thinking about is reckless. I just think that they're reckless. And I don't think that's a great place to be for a league.
It's just, I'd love to hear them explain what they're thinking. I think they have the best scientists in the world, but are they following their advice? Like they work indoors in groups, maskless, in 20,000 person groups in some cases. Like it just seems like, what if that is safe? If why doesn't Goldman Sachs know that?
Yeah. Henry, what I love about your thoughts on this is you just always are questioning the process and lack of transparency. And like I said, the recklessness will be tragedy if someone's kid gets sick or worse than just sick, or their mom or whatever. who's living at home. It's reckless. You made a comment before we came on that, we're trying to live our life and we're trying to be mindful of this pandemic. And I would argue that unless you're never leaving your house, you're taking some degree of risk. That doesn't make you reckless. Like, there is a process to follow, and I don't think they're following it. I know some college teams are. I know some companies, as you talked about, are. It's surprising the NBA isn't. But half the league has entered protocol one or the other, and the players I've talked to that got COVID were sick, but they're fine. They wasn't too bad. I seem like they're rolling the dice and hoping, they get a 7 or 11, the opening round of crap.
Well, there's like Nate McMillan's basically saying to the league, like, please, like, give us a break, right? He doesn't feel safe, right? And the league doesn't have to respond to that. They just kind of say nothing, right? Like, well, but we know there was reporting before Christmas that basically the board of governors, right? This is billionaires, just say, just keep going. Just don't stop it. They don't, just go. Like, the league kind of works for them. And to me, this is a little bit of for us as fans, it's a little weird to be like, yay. You know what I mean? It just feels like, well, what are we working towards here exactly? Like, what's the argument against Nate McMillan here exactly?
My definition of leadership. You can't always be a leader. Not every situation requires leadership. Most of our lives, the day-to-day hours that we spend, don't require guidance and leadership. This is an amazing time to step up and be leaders. I certainly have challenged myself to do so in my tiny little portion of the world with the people that I love and interact with on a daily basis. When I go see my very ill father, I still wear a mask, as does my wife. And when I stand outside his bedroom in the pool patio area where he's inside, and then when I actually went inside to kiss his forehead, I put a mask on, the KN95 mask, and he did too. Because he looked at me and I put my mask on, and my dad knew, okay, I need to do it as well. The NBA has an amazing opportunity here. Make people wear masks in the arena and really challenge it. Have players do PSAs or whatever. Like, they wouldn't be perfect. They would just be better. We would have less Omicron around.
Like, if you go to a Broadway show right now, well, a lot of them are canceled because someone tested positive, but also, like, they are going to see your vaccine at the door. And then if your mask slips below your nose, there's a person rushing over there right away. Like, boom, please pull your mask up. Like, it's, there's a way to do this, right? It's not the way the NBA's done it. And I don't know. I'm not a public policy expert. I don't know how this should go, and then there's definitely a big cost to keep everybody home. I'm not going to lie about that. But I wonder legitimately, like, is this, like, Adam Silver has children now, right? Like, did they go to NBA games? Yeah. Like, does he feel safe? Like, is this safe? Does he feel safe? Like, I'm not challenging him or talking trash, but just like curious to know, like, does he really think this is safe? I don't know. But double standards don't seem good, right? Goldman Sachs having like, guys, we looked at the science, like let's just err on the side of caution. You're important. Your health and safety is important. Stay home. But NBA can play. Like, that starts to look a little bad.
I also don't like the
look a little weird.
Yeah, the potential fear of well, we don't want to infringe on people's freedoms. Like, we're not doing that. It's telling someone they have to study, they have to become a scientist and can't become an artist. That's a form of communism back in the day that you could argue isn't very American. But protecting people's ability to breathe in a healthy way for many years, that's not impinging on anyone's rights. That's protecting our future health. That concerns me that we're worried about that stupid thing. But they're playing games and we cover the games for TrueHoop, and so we can talk about basketball.
Okay, so here we are. So Kyrie returning on Wednesday. What does that do for you?
I didn't know until I saw it in our document, and I don't care. Isn't that terrible? I mean, I know I'll care when I watch it. I won't be caring to watch the game necessarily. I'm not excited about his whole situation. We didn't have this in the document, but are you aware of the guy that kind of lost his mind yesterday in a football game?
No.
There's a wide receiver.
Oh, I did see that. He took his
Yeah,
jersey
I don't
off.
know anything about this guy, Antonio Brown, I think his name is. I really don't know anything about him at all, other than he played for the Buccaneers and it's my local team. I had it on for 8 seconds and I saw him walking off. I'm like, what is going on? I think it was a highlight. I don't think Kyrie is that. And this is a sad situation. What Antonio, something's wrong with this man. He shouldn't be playing football. I hope he's okay. Kyrie's odd too, and he's a great basketball player. It's going to be an interesting thing for the Nets to figure out. I heard someone say on a podcast over the break, do they not want to be the 1 seed? Because then they'd rather play a game 7 as a 2 seed on the road so they can have Kyrie. It's an interesting dynamic, but I just don't know if it's going to matter enough. If they think having him part-time is the answer to win a championship, I think they're wrong, but we'll see.
We will see. All right. Before the break, you wrote that Luka had this sloppy start of the season and lots of turnovers. And the turnovers were caused largely, you wrote, by him not caring much about whether or not I turned it over. And you said at the end, it will quickly be clear upon his return if he has made any adjustments. He played last night. How did it go?
So what a pretty pie chart that is. Before,
I love a good pie chart.
Yeah. Before I saw the tape, I thought, well, I'm not going to judge Luka. He's been out a long time. I mean, he was out before I wrote this. He was out after, between ankle injury and COVID protocols. I don't know if he had the virus or not, but I was not going to be judgmental because it's hard when you're the primary scorer and you're out almost a month. But now that I've seen the 7 turnovers, I saw nothing different than what he was before. Completely reckless, arrogant, casual. This guy did not care if he had some turnovers that were not bad turnovers. And he had 3 or 4 really terrible turnovers, including the second possession of the game. I think he threw a cross-court pass. It was just a stupid pass out of a pick and roll, a terrible read. It's just bad for a guy that's one of the best players in the world. It's bad. It's, Harden and Westbrook, when they were in their prime getting turnovers, they normally came from just attacking and the teeth of the defense coming to them. They weren't just attacking the teeth of the defense. Sometimes the teeth come get you when you're James Harden and Russell Westbrook. That wasn't the case in any of these turnovers except for maybe one. So cause for a concern, like nothing's changed yet.
I remember covering Jason Kidd, and they told Jason Kidd as a player that he was always very high in turnovers, like 4+ a game, but the best point guard in the league. And they told him basically, and he would repeat that, like, for him, turnovers didn't matter because they didn't want him to stop being creative and fearless. Right. And now that he's Luka's coach, this sort of hangs in my head a little bit where I'm like, they always mattered. It was just a thing they told Jason because he did so many other things so well, right? But of course, turnovers matter.
I've not looked at Magic Johnson's turnovers in a long time, but I don't remember him being this casual with the ball, and he had a similar upbringing in the sense that, he was playing for a national championship as the team's best player his second year. He was only maybe a year older than Luka when Luka was winning the EuroLeague championship. So their pedigree is a little bit above what the typical rookie's pedigree would be. But yeah, Luka's long enough into his career where he just has to recognize that 7 is just too much. It's not like he had 17 assists.
Yeah.
I think he had maybe 7 or 9. You can't do that.
And in the weird, you wrote some of this already, and we talked about it a lot, but in my memory, when Magic Johnson's getting a turnover, it's because he's just missing on getting James Worthy certain 2 points, right? These Luka passes are bananas. Like the one that you are most upset about was passing back to half court to a covered teammate. And like, if it went through, piece of crap. There's an open 3-point shooter in the corner. Like, what are you doing?
He had one in this game where, if I remember correctly, he threw it behind his neck far away. And of course it was bad. And so we talked about this. I don't know if I wrote about it, but you and I have talked about risk reward. Yeah. When the reward is a definite uncontested dunk, that's a hell of a risk to take, as long as it's not an incredible risk and a slight chance of reward, right? There has to be some ratio aspect there where the reward chances are pretty damn good.
If you throw it 10 times, you end up with like, 18 points for your team and a turnover, right? But if you, with these ones going to nowhere, you end up with as if you hadn't passed it at all number of points.
Right. It didn't do anything for your team. So
yeah,
I contend that Luka and the Mavericks are doomed this year, unless he starts setting a goal of I'm going to try to go a half without any turnovers, and yet I still can get assists. Like I would rather, if I was coaching him, I would go the opposite of Jason Kidd. I would say, hey, let's see if we can't go 0 turnovers, and if it means 0 assists, let's see how that looks, and then start building in more passing. Of course, we want you to pass. And some of the turnovers last night came from maybe he was not thinking score enough because he had just been gone for so long. That's going to adjust a little bit too. But most of it was just too casual. And watch Chris Paul. He ain't whipping the ball over the place for the bad guys.
No, that's not his style.
About it. Steph Curry can be a little bit, but Steph Curry is a shooter that Luka will likely never be. So it's not as painful for what he does.
Yeah. Okay, so the Mavericks are doomed. That's good. Happy New Year. All right, let's talk about the Lakers. You have a lot of thoughts. Where do you want to start? LeBron?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, he's very good.
Yay.
He had a great December. And what's interesting about it is his December, if you scroll down, Judy, his last 2 games, 43, 37, and 32, 39, 36, 34. That's his streak of games. He averaged 31 for the month and 9 rebounds and 6.5 assists, and only a couple of turnovers a game, I think. Shot 55% from the field, 40% from 3. Come on. What's unique about it, though, is he's just playing a lot of center, like flat out center. And with the post ups and back to the basket, he's always mixed that in, but now it's just more, the higher percentage of his possessions are featuring him playing with his back to the basket as a center. And we can talk about the Lakers, we will, and their flaws, but the guy came into the league 2 decades ago pretty much as a point guard. He could play every position then, except for maybe the 5. He was a guard that played a lot of point, and now he's ending his career with some real minutes now as a 5, and he's still phenomenal. It's the one thing that can easily be forgotten about LeBron because of his physical gifts, Henry, is he's one of the most brilliant players ever. He's got a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Chauncey Billups brain, Michael Jordan brain, Kyle Lowry brain, processing 1 million miles a minute, and he can do it from lots of different positions. That's very unique. Not that Jordan and Kobe didn't start posting up more; they did when their athleticism waned. But LeBron just is built differently physically, and more likely can play the 5 those guys couldn't. It's extraordinary. The problem is no one else out there can really help him right now on his team.
Well, and there's a different quality to it. It reminds me a little bit of Michael Jordan with the Wizards, where, this is a player who's been defined by athleticism, succeeding with less athleticism, right? Like I forget the play, a lot of LeBron's best numbers came against my team, the Blazers, who had literally no centers on the team at all that night. Right. So he played center, but he was scoring on Dennis Smith Jr. You know what I mean? Like it was but there was a play where he scored on everybody, but I forget, he scored on literally maybe Dennis Smith Jr. and then really celebrated. And I was like, LeBron James doesn't celebrate scoring on, like peak LeBron James doesn't throw a party after getting a layup around Dennis Smith Jr. Right. I felt a little bit like, I tried to go back and watch. I didn't make it through all, but just LeBron's points as a center. And a lot of it is coming against, not exactly Rudy Gobert, right? So honest question, is he a top flight center if he's still playing center come playoff time? Like, is he that kind of good at it?
No, defensively, he just can't do that. But you can buy minutes with it for sure. And it won't matter. They're so far away from being that team where a small ball LeBron James at 5 can work. And remember, they had AD at some point should come back. We don't know how long he'll last. He's been obviously his injuries have always been a concern. I think I'm really intrigued with what you said about the whole celebration, because I watched them yesterday and against Minnesota, and it does seem, Henry, like he's trying to get himself excited, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
He made a couple passes last night, one in particular that I think Avery Bradley didn't handle. And I saw LeBron give him the withering look that you give your kids when they fuck up. And Bradley had the look of the kid like, well, no, you were doing this and my hand was here. And LeBron just kind of jogged back on defense. I think he's trying to get himself excited. And it's, which he should. It's not easy. It's going to be a battle. This was against Minnesota without Cat. It's going to be a battle for them and for him to be excited. Like, you almost wonder, does he ask to be traded to a contender? Because as constructed now, like, they have no shot to be a contender.
They made a weird bet over, like, they had a bunch of younger players, right, who might be better now, might be exactly what they need now, but they made a big bet on Russell Westbrook. And after his 9 turnover night, including an 0 for 5 mark from 3 and a win over the Wolves, Russ said, that's part of the game. I'm allowed to miss shots. I can do that. Like any other player, I can do that. I can turn the ball over too.
He's been bad. I've not looked at his metrics lately, Henry. I forgot to look this morning, but he's been bad for a while. And they could have Caruso. I know it would have cost them money. They could have Caruso and Kuzma and KCP. And obviously, I think they would have been better than they are now. This team has devolved from the team we saw in 1920 that won a championship as a
Wait, did you say 1920? Oh, I see what you mean. 19/20. I'm like,
yeah.
What happened in 1920 with LeBron? Like,
yeah, LeBron, he's not been around that long. In 2019, 2020,
yeah,
they had this fierce identity of, we are fucking you up in the paint on defense. Bring it. They led the league in blocks. They were top 6 or 7 or 8 in points in the paint defensively. They attacked you offensively. There was an identity that they were a great defensive team, obviously. And they're just nothing like that now. Now, Kendrick Nunn, I don't know if he's even played yet, maybe a game or two. Malik Monk has looked a little bit better. I didn't see his final numbers last night, but he had put a couple games together really for the first time consecutively. And they're younger guys. The Reeves kid they have is the rookie that is interesting, but he's not going to help them win a championship this year. They've just kind of deconstructed what they had put together. And I thought they'd be a very good regular season team because the way Westbrook finished the season last year in Washington, and I was wrong. They're not. And of course, injuries play a big part of it, but it just seems like they've run out of gas to defend with the guys that can, and the ones that haven't been able to defend them before. The culture's not there, and they're not doing it. And so they're just nothing like they used to be.
And they're a high income team, right? It's a great market, but they're not a wealthy team, right? Because the Buss family doesn't contribute to the team. It's the other way around, right? So luxury tax is the big thing hanging over this team. And with that Westbrook move, seems like they're almost out of moves, right? They don't have a lot of ways to add talent, right? They're without spending just a fortune in future luxury tax, which it seems they're probably not going to do. So that was kind of their big move. And
it's like you and I said this morning, Henry, in a game of Russell Westbrook musical chairs, someone's going to be caught without a chair, meaning you're stuck with Westbrook. I don't know it'll be the Lakers. I didn't know that he would ever get traded initially years ago. It seemed like it was never a good deal. And then the Wizards ended up with them, and I thought maybe they get stuck with him. They found a deal with the Lakers, a good deal for Washington. Maybe someone will decide, let me sit in that chair and see how that goes. But I mean, it looks increasingly like that won't happen, and they're stuck with him. And that's an anchor that's just going to sink LeBron to the ground.
Yeah.
Bomb to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, that's pretty bad. Hold on, I'm just checking the time because we don't want to anger Judy. We have plenty of time. We're 24 minutes in.
You're out of practice, Henry.
Yeah. All right, Kevin Love, according to some of our favorite advanced stats, is a top 10 NBA player right now. What the heck? But David, you say that the Cavaliers should trade him right now.
Yeah, I was thinking. I watched Ricky Rubio get injured live. I watched that. I did not watch a lot of basketball this last week. I tried to take some time away, but I can't not watch some. And I happened to watch the Cavaliers, and Rubio's been playing well, not shooting great, but playing really well. And I saw the injury, and I thought, oh boy, I hope that's not the ACL. And of course, it is. Second time he's done it. I think the same knee even. And I right away thought, oh, they got to trade Kevin Love now, because you could make the argument they could accidentally get to the Final Four just because they really defend. It still would be unlikely. There's some very good teams in the East. They'd have to get by the Nets and the Heat and the Bucks to do it, to get to that Final Four. They have to get by one of those teams at least, or two of those teams. But it just, now without Rubio, and I know they traded for Rajon Rondo. I don't care about that either. That's not going to be enough. I wouldn't think anyway. And Colin Sexton's out, I think, for the season. A high scoring off the bench player probably for them ultimately. So they got Evan Mobley, Henry. They won the lottery. They got Evan Mobley. They're going, and we can talk about him in a minute. They're going to be amazing and they got Jared Allen and Darius Garland, as we've written about. Mobley's shooting nearly 60% on turnaround fadeaways. He's not finishing great, below 50% around the rim, but the guy is going to be a Hall of Fame for sure. MVP level player in the Tim Duncan mold. The guy that impacts the game everywhere. I don't know if he's the kind of leader Tim Duncan became. He's too young to know that. But I mean, I like what I've seen so far. And so the Cavaliers, this is my opinion, they should be thinking right now, who can we have that can help us win a championship in 2025 and beyond? It's going to take that long. And Kevin Love is not the answer. So right now he's playing the best he's ever going to play for a season. Now's the time to do a smart deal, even if it makes you worse this year. They don't need a lottery pick. You can always trade that lottery pick for a player that's going to help you in 2025, or they can keep it. But that's what they should be thinking, in my opinion. Although I think it's fair to say to the fans, we've been bad for a few years. Bad is not the right word. We've been just horrific for a few years. And so we're going to give you a playoff team this year. I get that, but I just think they're going to come. The fans are going to be there when you're winning series anyway in another year. I'd rather them just wait one more season and trade this guy. If you end up making the playoffs anyway, great, which is possible. You're not trading him for garbage. I just think it makes sense to trade him right now for all those reasons. Do you disagree?
No, I totally agree. But I know that, like, when you can see, like, when you're a fan of a bad team and suddenly you're near the top of the standings, like, basically your prayers are answered, right? And you can see the path to just happiness, right? A playoff series win, some excitement, some rubbing your hands together going, ooh, this is fun, right? And like, I recognize that if you run the Cavs, you're messing with that, right? Like, it's exactly what a real leader would do. You want to give those fans a path to a championship, not to a first round, second round. Right. But right now they're in this exciting situation that you would be messing with a little bit by trading away one of the best players. But of course, I'm a big believer that if you're good at it, right? If you're good at running the team, you'll get good players back and you'll be even better in the long run. And
well, the example, you and I talked about it. I mean, Masai Ujiri fired our friend Dwayne Casey, who had taken the playoffs every year, because he just felt like we're not getting this is what I think. I've never asked him to give me his reasons why. Dwayne Casey in the playoffs and the Raptors, it wasn't working. And then he traded DeMar DeRozan. That was an easier move for Kawhi, but it was a one-year rental and it delivered. He got lucky, but it delivered. But he still got Nick Nurse as part of those two transactions, who I think is, one of the best coaches in the world. The Cavaliers, to me, have to be thinking Garland, Allen, Mobley are mine. I've got these guys. And I just have to fill in the blanks now, the gaps. And Okoro might be a nice glue guy if he's willing to take on that role. And Sexton might be willing to be the Lou Williams, it's a valuable piece to have, that 6-man score. Work on those kinds of things. Kevin Love just isn't going to be the answer when this team is ready to win the East. And they're going to have a chance to win the East with those three. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It takes a lot of confidence to be like, we got a good long run here. Let's just fill in these little pieces. Do you put any thought to what you could get for Kevin Love?
I have. I don't know. Because we know some teams, the Celtics are desperate for shooting, the Raptors. I'm talking about teams that want to win. There's a lot of, like, the Pistons don't need Kevin Love. They're not looking to win. But the teams that are looking to win, I don't know if the Nets have enough, but they could use some big guys that actually know how to play and shoot and can space the court for people. The Mavericks are desperate for help. Minnesota, which would be interesting considering that's where Kevin Love began.
There we go.
It'd be interesting for did you lose me for a minute?
I did. I don't know if everybody did. It's probably me.
Oh, okay. The Minnesota with Kevin Love would be just a fun thing because of what it was like when he was there. And they're trying to make the playoffs. He may not love that. Memphis is kind of like Cleveland. They're not going to win a championship, but they're fucking good. And so, boy, him and Jaren Jackson Jr. would be pretty damn sweet. And they've got some young players that they might want for themselves. But if Memphis is a little more eager to jump in the bit more than Cleveland, well, they can trade some of their vast number of young guys and give Cleveland some of those guys that'll be part of their run in 3 years. And meanwhile, Memphis jumps up and maybe can be in the Final Four, even the West this year. So, I think there's some ways to do it. And I would not be surprised if he gets traded. Even though he wasn't in Hollinger's list of all the potential trades, he wasn't in there. I was surprised at that.
Yeah, that is interesting. He does make a lot of money.
31
and I do, underrated, right? The luxury tax is coming for everybody, right? There aren't a lot of teams that want to spend that kind of money right now.
Yeah. You have to do it if you think he is. Denver's a team where I don't think it's the best trade for them, but if they want to build on the momentum of good playoff runs 2 years in a row and the MVP in Jokic, and I think the MVP this year, although no one has him in the top 5 pretty much because Denver isn't great, but he's been incredible. He's been the best player in the world again. Kevin Love would fit. Like, he knows what he's doing and he'd be a good player for them. Some owners might be willing to do it because it keeps them in the mix of winning more playoff series.
Oh, I could see it. I mean, come on, like Mark Cuban would do it.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas. Yeah. That was the first team I listed was Dallas.
Yeah. Okay, the Bulls. The Bulls are looking fantastic right now. I know you've known Billy Donovan for a long time and you said some interesting things to me about how he's coaching this team. Can you catch us up on that?
Yeah. Billy Donovan was a grad assistant at Kentucky when they were recruiting one of my high school players. And it's amazingly embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I have somehow lost a videotape he put together for me for ball handling. Kentucky, they called them Kentucky ball handling drills. They were Rick Pitino, Billy Donovan drills. They were amazing. And I used them all the time with my players. And he made this, edited a tape for me that from his Kentucky players, like the team that lost to Christian Laettner at the buzzer. I had that tape. I somehow lost it in the move over the years, the few moves I've made. But yeah, the very first day he got the job at Florida when Lon Kruger left, he asked to meet with me in his office. It was still Lon's office at the time with Coach Kruger's pictures of his wife on the wall, whatever. He's done a marvelous job in the NBA. He was an unbelievable college coach. I wouldn't say I'm buddies with Billy or anything like that, but we've known each other a long time. When ESPN ranked their top college program builders, this was maybe a decade ago, Billy was number 1. It wasn't Duke, wasn't Carolina, it was Billy Donovan. And at Oklahoma City, and now in Chicago, here he is again. And I will tell you this. I spoke to a player on the team a couple of weeks ago when they were being ravaged with COVID issues, including, I think even Coach Donovan went in a protocol. I think he's back tonight. Maybe, yeah. I don't think he coached for the last couple of games. And he did a great job of telling his team one day, yeah, I know we're missing Zach LaVine and DeMar, whatever, but that is not why we're not setting hard screens. That is not why we're not playing with force and energy. Like, we can control that. And he's got a way, maybe John Lucas doesn't. We can talk about the Rockets issue later. He can challenge guys and they still love him. And so here we are, like, they're fun to watch. And then DeMar DeRozan for the first time ever, DeMar DeRozan goes with back-to-back game winners, right? Oh no. Henry, do you not hear me?
Yeah. Very, very covered in the corner. Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Yeah,
he's back?
Was it literally the first back-to-back, meaning 2 nights in a row, not back-to-back games, right?
Right.
Where he does it and no one had ever done it before. That's incredible.
Yeah,
so couldn't happen to a nicer guy either, by the way.
Right. Hey, we should bring in Gerard just in case we lose me. Then, I mean, David, you can monologue. I would bet on you. You got this?
No, I'd rather have Gerard too.
It's better with a friend. Gerard, if you're available. Hey, Happy New Year.
Yeah, let me be the last to wish you a Happy New Year, right? Stealing a little Chris Berman line there.
Yeah. So Gerard confirmed it, right? First time ever, back-to-back nights with amazing. That to me is pretty fucking amazing. Think about how many games there are, how many back-to-backs, and no one's ever done it, but I'm glad he's the first. He seems to be just the most likable star. And I mean, he was on a Toronto team that was pretty damn good. And then they weren't great in San Antonio, but he never pouted, just fucking balled out. And he's getting his right now.
He was on CJ McCollum's podcast, and they were kind of gaming out who's going to win the various awards. And when they said Coach of the Year, CJ's dutifully going through CJ's candidates, and DeMar just interjected Billy Donovan. And I just thought, he didn't have to do that. He could have just let CJ talk. And I know there's every reason to hate your boss, right? That's just how life goes. But that was pretty cool that DeMar did that. I was like, that's a sign of a relationship going well.
He's a hard guy to hate, guys. I would tell you, Billy Donovan is a hard guy to hate if you're a player, because he's so earnest. I think there's a few coaches in the league. Monty Williams probably is maybe the face of that. Just such earnest men. I think they do a good job of showing they care about you as an individual, as opposed to the transactional coach who is just coaching basketball. Pop is probably pretty famous for that too. And so they've just got it going on in Chicago. There's just sometimes things catch fire, right? Lightning strikes and fire catches. And when you watch the Bulls, that's what it looks like to me anyway. They just like playing with each other.
Did you see this? Zach LaVine said, I freaked out after the DeRozan game winner. We've been on an emotional roller coaster the last 2 days. He had back-to-back game winners. It's off the charts. Like, NBA players don't talk like that. Like they're at Disney World. That's not how they talk. Like, usually the mode is always like, we've seen it all before, right? But
I want to get Gerard's thoughts on Zach LaVine, but I would just say this. He's become one of my most favorite players to appreciate. I didn't like him coming out of UCLA after a year. I didn't dislike him as a person. I just thought it was very unlikely he'd be anything more than a Jamal Crawford type, which is great if he could just be Jamal Crawford as a pure scorer. Team USA made me fall in love with him, and I still just love him so much. He's loving it, and selfless too. Like, he's loving having DeMar DeRozan there with him. What do you think, Gerard?
Well, look, you say it all the time, right? Like, players are allowed to grow up and mature and get better, right? Like, that, just because you're like that when you're 19 doesn't mean you're going to be like that at 22 or 23. Like, you might not. There's a whole myriad of reasons and factors why you will or won't do whatever it is you're talented enough to do. I think Team USA is such a great incubator, right? And we talk about this all the time, but when you spend time with Draymond, Kevin Durant, and like all these guys who like just work, and you are like, Stan, when we had Stan on the show, Stan Van Gundy said something really interesting. he was like, for the average fan, what gets you excited about the great players is that amazing thing you see once in a lifetime, right? Like that's what gets everybody so excited. But to me, that's not what makes them great. What makes them great is the ability to do the simple thing over and over and over and over, right? And I think Zach was always like super awesome and like highlighty and whatever. But I bet he was in practice being like, damn, Kitty, is that all you do is stand over there and just shoot? Yup. Like, yeah. That's how you get good, right? You keep doing this shit over and over. And I think when you're around that, think about it, he hadn't won 3 games in a row in his professional career, right? Like prior to that stint, right? Like that's fucking crazy.
Crazy.
It's insane. So now it's like, oh, this is what it's like to play like real winning basketball. And now you got to give him credit also to Coach and Henry in that this is a contract year for him. He could be very much like, no. I need my touches because I got to get paid. And he is totally fine with DeMar doing his thing because what? Winning. Because ultimately when they win, he's going to get paid by someone if it's not the Bulls.
Oh, yeah, he's going to get paid. Right. There's a long line of really rich billionaires looking to give that dude money because it's translating to win. And he's got a great attitude about it.
Yeah. And they're
Draw just introduced a pretty interesting little story. I don't know if you guys saw this. Well, I know David did. Daniel Brown wrote a story with Athletic about David Fatoki, who's GM of the Santa Cruz Warriors. And there's a little thing in there about Klay Thompson has been on that team and they've been organizing a team around him. And I'm going to quote from it now. Fatoki recalled a recent day when players filtered off the court after a demanding team workout. Everybody left except Thompson, who stuck around to hoist extra shots. The last guy off the court, Fatoki said, even at a Santa Cruz practice. This is exactly what you're talking about, right? Is like Klay Thompson, who makes $150 gazillion a day, is the one doing the most work. David's like, I know, just dying to talk about this because this is deep, runs deep in you, David. Let it rip.
Yeah, this is what we talk about all the time. I just was telling Henry, there's a great story in my gym one time, Gerard, where I may have told this story before. I apologize, but Ryan Pannone actually tells this story more than I do. Ryan was my top assistant, who's now doing a great job with now it's the Birmingham Stallions, I want to say, of the G League, but he's had a couple guys called up, which is his job, and it's really great. And he's a dad of 3 now. He just had a baby a couple of days ago, his wife. And so I had maybe 7 guys or so on the court, to include Luol Deng and Kevin Martin and Corey Brewer, all of which were in their careers, and some like rookies in the draft that were good players. And the practice ended, and those 4 young guys go sit down, as I remember it. And, typically young guys, they get on the phones, they take their shoes off right away, like they're wearing lead shoes or something. And I leave because now my other assistants do the extra shooting with my veterans. The first 90 minutes, that's my job. That's what I'm doing. I leave, and then you guys do what you think you need to do in your own idiosyncratic OCD version of, I got to get these shots up every single day and make 8 in a row for me or whatever. They do their own thing. And I guess for like a week straight, the rookies never took the bait of, oh, that's what the pros are doing every day. They're staying after to shoot with the other assistants. And so Coach Pannone, and I always told Ryan, you got to let them try to figure it out first. They're not your children. These are grownups. But I guess after a week, he sat down. He's like that's Luol Deng. He signed for $71 million. That's Kevin Martin. He's averaged 25 a game for like 3 straight years. Corey Brewer was a lottery pick, recovered from ACL and signed a big deal. Like, they're doing extra shooting. What are you doing? And then they're like,
rookies are dumb. They're dumb at that age. They don't know.
They don't know. But to your point, Gerard, we were saying before, DeMar DeRozan is a great example of that. He's still getting better. And that's the other thing I think we're seeing more guys with the great trainers we have, not the basketball trainers, the physical trainers, that I think players have a longer prime if they're taking care of their bodies more. The NBA is trying to ruin it with all their games and everything. I get that. But more players than ever are doing yoga and drinking more water and on and on and on. And for DeMar DeRozan to still do what he's doing now, I thought it was a bad contract he signed. Turns out probably deserves a little more money from the Bulls than what he's getting. That's a credit to DeMar. I love it. And to the Bulls franchise and Billy Donovan too.
They got a hell of a roster. I mean, you know,
Really?
anything about like developing is part, you know, it's not only that, like, you know, this coach, as the players get older and there's more repetitions of different things that happen, they understand the game at a higher level, right? Now, the cruel irony, of course, is that, you know, by the time they're 37, right, they've really got it all figured out. But physically, it's like, fuck, I can't, right? I can't do it at that level anymore, right? But it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
I used to play. Oh my gosh, I used to play in Tompkins Square Park in like 1994. I don't know, 18 or whatever, and there was this, like, the LeBron James of that park was this guy named James, and he was nice. I liked him. He was a good player. We won a lot together, but he couldn't move anymore, and he wanted to move through me, and he would just yell at me, like if I didn't make a clean catch, or if I like he would just be like, he wanted to be able to move like me so bad. And he would just yell at me the whole time. But we hugged. It was good. Like James was a great guy, but I just felt like he would, like, you're exactly what you said. Where like he had the whole game mapped in his head, and I was just like a dumbass, like, you know, missing the open guy or whatever, like, or dribbling into traffic. And
This is why LeBron has been a bad GM.
yeah.
He just wants the old guys who can think the game like him. And so he's got Carmelo.
His name is
Rondo.
James. Yeah.
His name is
How's that working out for you, bro?
That's how they end up with Westbrook, right? Like Kyle Kuzma wasn't in the program, right?
I think
Like,
so.
right? It's just like too many.
But you could use Kyle Kuzma and Caruso right now.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. The Bulls love Caruso.
Everybody loves Caruso, right? Like, isn't that what every team wants?
Yeah.
All right. There's another little part of this this really good David Vitoki story that I want to focus on too, which is, so Kent Lacob, the lesser known Lacob son, went to Washington University in St. Louis and had the idea that he was going to be starting on the basketball team. And I'm reading from the article now. We got out of that first scrimmage, and man, he whooped me. He destroyed me, Kent Lacob said with a laugh. He's talking about David Vitoki, who's now the GM of the Santa Cruz Warriors. And I knew after one practice, all right, I need to get on board. I'm going to be his backup, and I'm going to have to be okay with that. Vitoki, listed at 5'10", later earned D3 honorable mention All-American honors as a senior in 2013-14, where he finished 4th in the country in assist to turnover ratio. Over his college career, he helped the Bears win 3 consecutive UAA conference championships. The finance major, originally surrendered to the real world out of college, working for Accenture as a consulting analyst. His next stop was a financial advisor associate for Polaris Wealth Management, but his hoop dreams kept him up at night. And then I think they said 8 years ago, Kent Lacob, who's trying really hard not to look like he's just hiring his friends from college, like, made an exception because David Toki's brilliant and has all this management experience and knows basketball. And he brought him in and had a terrible salary, low-level job, but now he's the GM of the Santa Cruz Warriors. That's pretty cool, I think, huh?
I mean, Wash U, like, one of my dear friends was a Wash U alum and a Fulbright scholar. So anyone I know that goes to Wash U, pretty smart person.
Yeah, my niece just got in. She's going to study architecture. I think it's the best architecture school in the country. And as excited as my brother was, he also was like, oh boy, like she's not going to have the same college experience that we had, just studying whatever and, you know, drinking beers and everything. Architecture at Wash U is no joke, but the whole school is incredible. Yeah.
Really good school.
You know, and that whole Varsity Blues, like, sting operation, like, I don't know if you guys got, like, you know, the guy was a con man who ran it. But one of the things that he said reportedly was that every NBA owner was a client.
Yeah, of course they were.
Well, I mean, you know, that's a big claim. That's a legal claim. I wouldn't want to say it without evidence. And the guy saying it is a known liar. But a part of me is like, is Wash U the kind of school that you pay $250,000 to get into? Like, or is that the school that you get into because, you know, it's not Harvard.
It's not, but it is. I mean, that's the thing. There's so many schools that are not Ivy League that are. Yeah. You ask anyone who's went there, or you look at like the curriculum, like stacks up pretty favorably against all those other Ivies, right? Like, it just doesn't have that kind of name recognition.
Right, but that whole scandal was about paying for that kind of name recognition,
correct,
right? Like,
correct.
Like, that's a party. You know, is it a name you drop at a party and everyone's like, oh, very impressive, right? Like, because, you know, that's what billionaires are looking for. That's what they're
maybe in dorky academic circles it is.
Yeah. I mean, I went to NYU. I know this category of college. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what you're talking about. Like, all right. But okay, then the other thing Dave and I lapsed into talking about today was the Lakebs. Like Jack McMullen with this beautiful story a few years ago about how Bob Myers and Steve Kerr like love each other, love what they're able to create, love working with Steph. And she's like, isn't it creepy, like Bob, that you know that like your replacement is right there, like you're training Kirk Lacob every day, and like it's just TikTok, he's coming, and 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 basically both Steve and Bob were like, no, like this is as good as it gets. It's like you get a few years of like having the good setup, which is the saddest thing in the world. It means the NBA is just a dog shit place to be brilliant at building a team, because there's a freaking snowplow coming to clear you out like at all times, right?
I mean, one of the reasons you are an owner to get a team is so you can hire all your deadbeat son-in-law sons and like that's one of the reasons you get a team, right? So they can all get jobs, right? So I think Steve and Bob are right on. Like you have a few years of like Shangri-La, right? And you gotta make that thing happen. And that's why they're so adamant on like winning now, right? Because they know. The site is coming through. They know it.
David, do you want to show your Cuisinart thing?
Oh yeah, Judy. Yeah, we have it in there. This is Warriors Jazz, one of the best games of the season. And there's, if anyone's watching, there's 3 plays where you'll see Curry just kind of use a really good screen from, of course, Looney, and make a two-point jumper. But in a tie game with 2 minutes to play, 2-pointers are very valuable too. So now you see the ball flipping around. You see Curry cutting down the middle, then going to the corner, coming off a wide pin for a 3. Now he's Steph Curry, but the ball was moving, players are moving, and Curry, of course, was moving too. And then the last one is just a really good hard screen. That last play is a Wiggins hook pass that we just wrote about last week. It wasn't quite over his head because he's 6'8" or 9. He kind of short armed it a little bit, but it worked for him. But I saw Wiggins throw a couple of hook passes. Like LaMelo Ball throws them all the time. Wiggins didn't used to. He's got a little better at that. They have lots of weapons because of the way they play in that system. And I think their player development is working as well. So I do think they need help defensively at 5, although I love Looney so much. But if Clay and Weissman can bring anything to the table, I think both need to. I don't think they can win it all, but if they do, I think they can.
Wait. Say that real slow.
I think they need more defensive help. I think they need more defensive help.
Yeah.
To win the championship. Because I think Milwaukee's coming and Giannis is not going to be stopped easily. Or the Nets, and you're going to have to get rim protection help to some degree. You can't. The Nets are going to be able to beat you if they can get layups and have KD and Harden operating from the perimeter. But if they're only operating from the perimeter, then it's much harder for them to win 4 games in 7. And yet with the Warriors, as good as Draymond is, he's not a rim protector that way. They need Weissman. I don't know if they'll be able to, or they've got to acquire someone, which is possible too. And but if they have that, then I think they're right there to win a championship. They're the best team now, but I wouldn't favor them absent those guys, showing they can do more, especially Weissman, actually, not even Clay.
What did you think of, there's like chatter about the last play in your Cuisinart, Iggy hitting that shot, and Rudy on the late contests, and Rudy post game was like, look, in the NBA, you can't guard everything. You have to give something up, right? He's like, I got to worry about the back screen coming and someone cutting to the rim. So yeah, I contested late, but he shoots whatever 20-something% from 3, and he get a pump fake to get it off. Like that's the shot I have to live with versus getting a layup to go right behind me, which I think is the right play.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's all blackjack. That's how I describe it to players when I first meet them in the NBA. Everything is blackjack. You've got to consider odds. And that doesn't mean, because this is not a machine, there's not dice, these are not cards. So if a player is in rhythm, not hot, in rhythm, like DeRozan on a certain shot, well, they just make him do something different. He still might make it, but don't let him do that same thing again, and don't foul him. But yeah, Rudy Gobert is as special a defender as we've ever seen since Bill Russell. And there's just way more talent in the Rudy Gobert era than there was the Bill Russell era. So to me, he's the best defensive player of all time. He really is. Olajuwon was amazing too, but he didn't have to guard the perimeter like Rudy does. Olajuwon was standing in the paint and then making a player near the paint. Rudy's all over the damn place. Yeah, he's the best. I think he's the best that's ever played defensively.
All right, so it's a little hard to project from the standings because so many of the games are scrub city. But who do we think is going to be in the finals as of now?
No idea.
I like a repeat of last year.
See that? I'm gonna go. Yeah, why not? Phoenix. Yeah, what the hell? Repeat of last year.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm open to change. Let's see how
Yeah.
Kyrie does. Let's see how the Nets do.
And
with
they're
him.
four credible teams, right? Who could potentially be there, right? Adding Golden State and Brooklyn. I think those 4 teams, in addition to Phoenix and Milwaukee, right? Like those are 4 credible teams I would take right now in any breakdown.
I'd put Utah in the mix too.
The thing about Utah is they got to show it in the postseason. Like they need to get to a conference finals, right? Like they need to show that. Quinn's got to show his ability to make an adjustment and do something different. When teams decide to go, yeah, we don't care, we're doing this instead, you do something different now. And he hasn't. So I got to see it.
I, in my heart of hearts, maybe I'm just brainwashed from the past, but I think the Warriors are going to be in the finals. I think they're just, we've seen it so many times. They've mowed down all the obstacles in my brain. They're just like, I don't know. The Warriors know what they're doing.
And I think they beat Phoenix twice this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
I know Curry didn't play great. I don't care about that. He's Steph Curry, but Ayton, like in April, Ayton's gonna be better than he is now. Like Ayton is coming. He's out right now with protocols, although they still smashed Charlotte without half their team.
That's the matchup, coach, that I'm looking at. Like if it is Western Conference Finals with those two, when the Warriors go, all right, we're going to ultra small ball. Like, does Ayton punish them, grabbing rebounds and just killing whoever is on playing five? Yes.
Yeah, he has been doing that. But Curry's done it, Draymond's done it, Wiggins hasn't, right? Jordan Poole hasn't. There's I like I said, I think they need some help at the rim in the postseason. I could be wrong. They could, shoot the lights out enough. They are a great defensive team too. Just do it differently.
You're right though. It'll be different, right? Like when Poole, not Clay and the guys, but when Poole and Wiggins and those guys, and it's conference finals, it's 2-2 or they're down 3-2, and you gotta it's gonna feel different making that hook pass than it did on December whatever against whomever.
Well, there was I seem to remember, I looked this up. I don't remember if I wrote about it or not, but I think that in like game 1s of last year's playoff run, DeAndre Ayton killed everybody. But it was adjustable for the other team, right? It didn't keep happening, right? And, Chris Paul was throwing that little lob but then, I don't know. What do they do, David? How do you slow down DeAndre Ayton?
Well, he's gotten way better, Henry, at scoring around the rim. The game has just slowed down for him. And I like to call it a disposition to dominate. I got that from watching Shaq. Like I coached an amazing player in high school, is one of the best players ever for Florida high school players, and a great college player too. He had a disposition to dominate. He was also huge, but he wasn't Shaq. And Ayton's getting that, and just he knows he's going to crush you at the rim on both ends, and he's doing it. And I think the contract they didn't give him is just that much more motivation. It's not pissed him off. He's handled it beautifully, professionally. And I also, last thing I'll say about Phoenix is I just think Chris Paul was not a servant often enough last year. And I think he will be better. But guys, if Phoenix and Golden State are the final two, and again, I think Utah is amazing. I think Gerard's right about Quinn. I've said that many times. That's 3 great teams in the West. I don't care who the 4th team is. And the East would be great too. If we get a Brooklyn-Milwaukee final, we got ways to go, but those are great teams, guys. Great teams.
One thing about Chicago, I mean, we're not,
and Miami.
Like there's a lot going on here.
A lot.
Yeah, we're all gonna look like idiots for these. Burn this tape, right? Like everything's gonna be COVID different, injury different, trade different. Like
that's the thing, right? Injuries could happen. I just don't know outside of and I'll put Utah in there. After you get down, and I love my Grizzlies, but after you get down from Utah at 3, I don't love anybody in the West.
Nope, not this year.
What about the Blazers?
Henry.
It's not our year.
We said Devin. We said Milwaukee. That's my pick.
Milwaukee's everybody's pick in the East. Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, couldn't be more in. All right. Judy is going to be on our case in about 30 seconds. Anybody have any final thoughts?
No, excited to get the season started for 2022.
Okay.
Grizzlies Nets tonight. I'm excited for that.
Oh, nice.
the drawed cup. All right, you guys. Thank you. We will see you on Friday. Thanks,
Be
Judy.
safe.
Thank you, David.